Hi everyone, I'm Sandie La Nae. Welcome to Psychic Creations. We have a very interesting show for you today as we are going to be learning all about cowboy poetry. Please welcome to Psychic Creations the man that is going to be teaching us about his intriguing interest and talents as a cowboy poet, the awesome Tony Argento.
Thank you, Sandy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's an honor to have you with us. Well, I have got a ton full of questions for you, so we can get going, okay?
Sure.
First of all, did you originate, or do you originate in Nevada?
In a roundabout way, yes. My family came across the Black Rock Desert in the 1850s.
Wow.
Some of them didn't make it across the desert, and when they were going up the Peter Lassen Trail, some of them didn't make it there too. So you could say in a roundabout way.
Sure.
My grandfather cowboyed here for Miller Lux, largest land and cattle operation in the West. And they cowboyed for him out of Paradise Valley and up out of Denial, up out of the Twin River Range. Yeah. So, and big thing. Henry Miller, a little fact about Henry Miller, he was the only man ever to have in excess of 1 million head of branded cattle at one time.
Wow.
That's cowboy for you. He owned over 16,000 horses. So,
Wow.
yeah, I grew up in Grass Valley.
Okay.
And Nevada attracted me because of its outdoors. And cowboy Nevada is one of the last of the frontier states, and I'm proud to be a part of that. I've been here a long time, but not since the 1850s.
Well, darn. I was going to say, if you were, you look really good.
Yeah, a lot of vitamin D.
There you go. All right. Well, let's just get right to the gist of everything here. Could you please explain to our viewers just what cowboy poetry is?
Cowboy poetry is based on values of expression on the life and experiences of the great American West and the iconic cowboy. And its history starts back in the 1860s, the Civil War. The fellers, how would I say it, they used it as a form of entertainment after the end of a hard day. Cowboys, nobody to fool with. They're not like we see every day on the silver screen cowboys. It's all glamour. They were hard working. They were right to the point. If you did cattle rustling or horse thieving, they took care of it and everything was settled. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The entertainment was, at the end of the day, with the exception of the Nighthawks. The Nighthawks were the fellows that watched the cattle and kept them calm at night. The fellows would be around the campfire and rolling their little Corleys, their little hand-rolled cigarettes, and telling stories, and pretty soon things would get to be metered, which is verse, or the words rhyme, and hence cowboy poetry. There's a lot of variations of how it came to be. The cowboy is, they want to know where the word cowboy come from. It's a Spanish term from vaquero, vaca meaning cow.
Sure, okay.
Sure.
Interesting.
During the Civil War, the boys were tended to the cattle while the men went off to fight, hence the term cowboy as well. So there's a lot of things. The cowboy has a rich history. You can talk for days and never scratch the surface.
Really?
And that's what excites me.
Yeah. And that's what you put into the poetry.
Yeah, I like to, when I entertain the audience, I like to, when I have the time to do it, depending on the time that the sets give me, I like to incorporate history behind that. Yeah. A lot of people may not know different things. Of course, their background, their families were cowboys. We didn't have refrigerators to go to, and we didn't have vehicles, so we were around livestock. And the cowboy, in general, they're genuine, they're patriotic, and they're down-to-earth people. Agriculture.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I get excited about it. It makes me happy.
Well, sure, I can see your passion. Well, what first inspired you and your interest in becoming a cowboy poet?
My grandfather, Samuel Woodrow Wilson, born 3/13/13.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was a cowboy like my father and my other grandfather. And he recited cowboy poetry. That's what got me fired up. How can this old man remember all these things and keep in tune. It's like I could picture these characters, what they looked like and what they were doing and where they were. And that fascinated me, so it was easy for me to learn. And my first poem that I learned was in 1965. I was 5 years old. And the poem that he recited that caught my interest was by Gail Gardner, was his name. And he wrote that in 1917. He was headed through the state of Kansas on a coach car called the Santa Fe Limited. He looked out his coach car window and saw what he termed as round-rumped cattle grazing in a nice plush green pasture. He pulled out his quill and he penned the poem, Tying the Knots in the Devil's Tail. It's done as poem and it's done as a song.
Really?
And it's wild. About two fellers that get tanked, have a little too much, and they meet the devil, and the devil's gonna take them south, and they're having no part of it.
Oh,
So it's kids love it too.
awesome. Do they win or does the devil win?
Oh no, the devil loses.
Oh, good.
And, they're being cowboys and they're having a great time at it.
How fun.
It is.
Was that the first poem that you've ever heard or read?
No.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no. My grandfather also did Robert Service, Cremation of Sam McGee and the Shooting of Dan McGrew. Yes. Yeah. Those are long poems, but I do quite a bit on him as well. And that fired me up too. Around the campfire, hey Sam, give me that Tying the Knots in the Devil's Tail or the Shooting a Dangerous Dan McGrew. Robert Service is considered the most successful poet ever.
Nice.
In 1915, he received $1 million for the movie The Shooting of Dan McGrew. A lot of money then.
Well, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little things. And it just keeps getting better.
Just keeps
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
better
so-
and better.
So many poems, there's many poems that struck my interest and I followed with that. So it was easy to be in front of a group in school when you had to get up and recite something, the Gettysburg Address, all those things. Lincoln's my hero. So,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that
I love
man.
Abraham Lincoln. He did a lot for this country in a short time.
He did. He did. Well, what is your main focus? What do you like to speak on when you're reciting a poem?
My focus is absolutely this, to give the people in front of me a good experience.
Oh.
They have a good experience, they're going to come back, they benefit the local economy. I try to do things in a variety, because everybody has different likes and dislikes.
Sure.
So if I can do patriotic verse, maybe something solemn, something happy, something to make them think, do novelty stuff. I have a wide variety of material, so it allows me different things depending on the venue that I'm doing. And material that will hold their attention and incorporate the history behind it. A lot of people don't realize Audie Murphy wrote 17 Western songs. He wrote 3 poems. I do one of them. It's a great poem.
Ooh.
And I get the history behind that. Eddie Arnold and Charlie Pride recorded a couple of his songs.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Oh.
And he has a lot to do with Memorial Day weekend.
Really?
His passing was on the Friday of the Memorial Day weekend when Congress first enacted Memorial Day in 1971.
Okay.
Okay, and then we're going to tie in Lincoln with the Gettysburg Address. There was a fellow named General Major John Logan from the Republic, the Army of the Republic. And on May 5th, 1868, he signed Decoration Day to be May 30th. And that is where they put the flowers on the graves of the fallen, of all soldiers from all wars. And Memorial Day weekend is what that's all about. So all those ties come together, and that's patriotism at its best.
Isn't this fun? Viewers, we're getting a history lesson too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. And can you tell our viewers just what exactly is patriotic verse?
Patriotic verse has to do with our great American flag, right here, I always wear it here. It has to do with remembering those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. When we look at America, America is red, white, and blue. We're the greatest country on the planet. This TV show today, because we're the red, white, and blue, we can do this at our own time, and we can travel, go wherever we want, we can visit whoever we want. That's patriotism. Patriotic verse has to do with American soldiers, those people that have their patriotism in their heart. Maybe many didn't serve, but their patriotism is still here. They do things to volunteer. It excites me. I love it. And I always incorporate, when I write my own material, I do my best to incorporate patriotic verse.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I can, I'm able to, I'll put that in my material
Sure. Mm-hmm.
when I write.
Do you like to write your own poems?
Yes, I do. Because there's a lot of subjects that aren't out there that I can go recite, like, okay. And the old adage is, be careful what you do or what you say, because there could be a poem written about it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and that's true, and it happens. And there's a lot of songs today, Western songs, that were actually originally written as poems. And they would put the verse, okay, this is better. It's not cowboy, but I'll give you an example, the Star Spangled Banner. It wasn't written originally as a song. It was called the Defense of Fort McHenry.
Is that right?
And we only recite the one verse that's done in song, but it's originally as a song, or originally as a poem. Yeah, so that's.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so.
I don't know what to say. That is so interesting.
I get charged up. There's so many things that I have interest in. It's unreal. I love history. I've had people say, Tony, you should have been a history teacher. And I said, well, I was, but I found there's no future in it.
Okay.
You gotta have fun.
That.
Yeah.
You have to have fun.
You were asking me about my focus. My focus is that the audience, everybody's fighting a battle. Doesn't matter what it is. Finances, relationships, work. If I can turn that mood around and get them to have a good time, get them alive, give them a smile, wink at them, acknowledge that they're there, and they've had a good time, guess what? They're going to come back. And a lot of people say, I didn't realize that's what cowboy poetry was. They hear the word poetry and it's like, oh, okay. But when they listen to it and they experience it, they said, what have I been missing all these years?
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah. It goes on and on and on. There's so many great stories, and it makes me happy.
It sure does. Just look at
at
you
this smile.
smile.
Face,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like
right.
a Cheshire cat.
Oh, I love that. Well, now, do you recite poems from other cowboy poets or friends that are?
Yes,
cowboy
I do.
poets? Mm-hmm.
And it's a touchy subject on that in some respect. You always want to give credit to those who wrote the material.
Sure.
And it's if it's somebody that's current or living, you want to get permission from them directly.
Okay.
If it's a verbal, okay. I think there's a clause at 70 years, and then it's open, it's free range.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I believe
Okay.
that's a story. But the old poems, like what we term as the classics,
Mm-hmm.
those I like to recite those and relay that information and message to the audience. There's so much good material that's out there that's been lost over the years. And when they come back, people go, I haven't heard that poem in over 30 years.
Oh, how
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So that when I get the connection, then that's all worth it. Yeah.
Oh, I bet that is so much fun for you to have someone in your audience hear a poem they haven't heard for 30 years. Do they come up and say thank you, a personal thank you?
He said, you know, that poem that you did when I was a little girl, I saw, there's a Tom Mix poem that I do, and I've had two people come up to me. One gal, she said she was born in 1927. I was doing the fair at Siskiyou Golden Fair at Wairika. And I wasn't even finished with the poem, and she goes, Sonny, I want to talk to you. And I said, okay, let me finish the poem. And she says that her parents had a hard time giving her a name. She was born in 1927, and they ended up naming her Delta after the Delta, the ship. And she remembered coming to town, the circus that Tom Mix had, and she says, I remember that. She goes, thank you for rekindling those memories. It brings back a lot of fun times. So it's an entertainment source. It's a great value for the entire family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more popular today than it's ever been.
Oh,
It really is.
Cool. Nice.
The one thing I'll turn that around 180 is that it's a dying art. It's spoken word.
Oh, okay.
But when you look at the age group of us fellers and the lady folk that's reciting this,
Mm-hmm.
there's very few of the youth that have an interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see getting it into the schools in like a school curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
because it is the history. I mean, there's so much you watch the old movies and everything was depicted like it was supposed to be. The proper attire, the wagons, the old Studebaker wagons, and Sam Peckinpah and John Ford and Sergio Leone. They had all them westerns out there, and the people, they could picture when they're listening to us doing cowboy poems, they can picture that. Okay, that's how it was. All right.
How fun is that? I am having the best time learning from you.
This is great.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
I just shoot from the hip. I just play new rules and I have fun with it, and that way there's less stress.
Well, that's the best way to do it, and be,
High
you
five.
bet, high five, you bet.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, have you written poems specifically for other cowboy poets?
Yes, I have. I've had a number of them say, hey, look, I really have an issue getting in front of an audience. Can you recite this for me? And I said, sure. So I've done that a couple times, and I've had, at the request, there was an event I did in Texas where the person wasn't there, and they says, Tony, you're the best candidate. Why don't you go up there and recite this poem? I think it's fitting to how you recite your material.
Sure.
Sure, yeah. I'm what's termed as a character actor poet. I'm not solemn behind a podium or lectern and stand monotone. I try to move around. To me, it's not a point of showing off, it's for telling story.
Right.
So I do vocal animation, I'll use sound effects, and I'll use it when times are right. I'll use props.
Oh, do you?
Props, yeah. I'll include the audience, because it's not about me, it's about the audience.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'll ask them questions, trivia questions to get them interested, and I do Mr. Haney, you know.
Oh, from Petticoat Junction?
Yeah, he was a sidekick for Gene Autry and Roy Rogers.
He was?
He absolutely was, born in 1915 in Macon, Georgia. And so I give when they come up with the answer, when I give them the clues, and I go, okay, when I give you the voice animation, you'll get the idea. And then, so I do, and I go, okay. And so he never said this, but I'm gonna pretend he did.
Okay.
And I haven't done this for a while. I always have to think of his voice. Mr. Douglas, have I got a deal for you? It's a brand new, genuine imitation dog polisher. Thank you. And then when I conclude, I go, that'll be 25 cents, please, Mr. Douglas. So,
Green Acres, that's where he was on, not
Green
Petticoat
Acres,
Junction.
that's right.
Green Acres.
Yeah.
I got tears in my eyes, I'm laughing. That's
And
fun.
when I recite my poems, I do the same thing with the characters. We all sound and act alike and look different. So
okay.
I try to do that to make the storyline come to life.
Oh, isn't that fun? That is fun.
It takes a lot of work, but it's fun. You were asking about the patriotic verse. I like to reflect on that. There's been a many number of times when I've recited verse, and it makes me feel good. And I've had mothers especially come up to me and says, Tony, I've got a son in Afghanistan, another one in Iraq. Can I get a hug?
Oh.
I'll have a poster. Can you sign the poster for me? Oh, you really touched my heart. Thank you. And makes it all worth it.
Well, it does. Gosh, now I got tears in my. Oh my gosh.
When I recite verse, I always take off my Stetson, and that's respect for our American flag. Those men and women who served, thank you. And those men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice, allowing us the freedoms that we discussed earlier.
Right.
So that's just my little way of saying thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for your service.
That's awesome. That is very awesome. Okay, more tears. I wanted to ask you, did it take you very long to get comfortable on stage speaking?
No. You have to look at it this way. Half of them are asleep and half of them aren't paying attention. They really are. I just tell people that have a little nervous issue about getting up there, and I say, hey, look, come on, and no, it's fun. When you have people, I've done sets from 10 minutes long to, if you can believe it, I did one set that was 3.5 hours. I did a set from 6:30 to 10 o'clock. And they had a little break. They had like a 15 or 20 minute break in between there. But that takes a lot of energy for Tony to be up there on the stage moving around.
Sure.
Yeah. And and it was a benefit fundraiser. I've done a lot of those.
Oh,
I do things to help others. My folks were real community oriented. I've done children's hospital fundraisers down in Henderson at the pavilion down there.
Oh, yes, yes.
I got 5 acres donated from the city of Henderson for the Louis Clare Foundation. That was a fun gig, and those things are good.
Nice.
Community's good. I'm happy with that.
Well, sure. Oh my gosh, you've kind of been all over the place, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I've been to Calgary Stampede, at the Stage of the West Stage, Kamloops Theater, or Kamloops, British Columbia up there, Forster Theater, a lot of local places here too. John Asquaga's Nugget for the Cattlemen's Convention on the celebrity showroom stage, and most all the casinos around.
How fun!
Yeah, the Horse Expo, Cal Expo.
Sure. Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, I always had that during, typically during Flag Day, and
Oh, yeah.
I did an event out there in the middle of Wrangler Arena on Flag Day, and give a little history of the flag on Flag Day.
Nice.
Flag Day there too. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Well, you call your style of reciting tuned up and twisted.
Yes.
What is that all about?
Tuned up and twisted. That's my animation that I was referring to earlier about being a character actor poet. That's what makes the storyline really come out. And people say, well, how do you reference that to me? And I said, okay, let's use a prime example. If you've been to schools, whether it's a college, a university, or some kind of a seminar, and you're listening to somebody and they're going, ma, 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 you want to pick up your vocal variety. You want to move it around. You want to grab their attention and give them. 70% of memory retention is through facial expression.
Oh,
Yeah. So there's,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, okay, and a lot of that, little bit of that goes a long way. You know, you acknowledge that audience out there, know that they're there. They're going to come back. They'll come up to you and go, "Hey, you know, you really caught me off guard there. I wasn't expecting this. Can you explain more on the story? I know it was a story, but I want to know more about this." So you're
Nice.
You hold the attention. People come up, and then Art Town in Reno, they used to have
Right.
me geared for the kids, and he says, "We want to do a poetry writing class for the kids." And I said, "Well, I've never done that before. What's the title? We want you to do it." And I said, "Oh boy, I don't know." I said, just off the cuff, like I said, I shoot from the hip. I said, "How about writing and reciting?" And I said,
Oh, I like that.
they said, "Great." So we did it, and it worked. So and the kids come up, I have them get up there in the front, and what they did, and it worked out really well. It was successful.
How fun.
Yeah.
Was that the only class that you've ever
That's the only
taught?
one. That's the only one I did, but it's exciting. People have asked me about why I talk the way I do. Yeah, I refer to it as a vernacular. It's a type of a lingo or language. Instead of hunting or fishing, hunting, going, and creek, it's hunting, fishing, going, and crick. You don't hear them talk like otherwise that on the movies.
Right.
I reckon he's over yonder.
Right.
Yeah, so all those things, and when I recite, when I write my poetry, a lot of the poems that's already written in there like that. So it's just, Toastmasters correct me, and it's like, okay, you got it, you're okay with that, Tony, we're good with that.
Oh, really? They
Yeah,
did try and correct you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, isn't that
And
something?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
They're good. That's to make people work better.
You bet.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Awesome. What were the most memorable places that you have recited?
I love them all. The people make me happy that's there. When they get charged up, I get charged up, and I really throw it out there at them. I like here locally. The local people, there's some places when I've done material that's could be humorous, and I'm looking at them like, what?
Oh,
I know it's a regional thing, and other places they're like, one lady, she was so charged up, we was in Idaho, Genoa, let me backtrack here. Genoa is a phenomenal place. The people that put the Genoa Cowboy Heritage Festival on, I've been doing that for 10 years.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Genoa, the oldest settlement in Nevada, a lot of history there.
Yes.
You got the Carson Range in the background for the beauty and the effects. That is a phenomenal place. All the places that I've been to, there's no negatives. The people are genuine. The Calgary, I talked about being up there on the Stage of the West Stage. That was, that's kind of the ultimate, being up there. There's places here locally. I've been to the Elko gig. That's the granddaddy. That started in '85. And Vinton, I'm going to be there next year.
Oh,
that's
okay.
the oldest one in California at the Grange Hall.
Okay.
I've entertained there a number of times. That's a really good one. And people travel from all points to get the entertainment. Yeah, so
Nice.
everyone to me is special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be a part of all of it. I'm always looking for new gigs and new venues. I'm always looking for new material.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of material out there that I haven't come across. That's the old, what I refer to as the classics.
Cool, okay.
And I have, over the years, I've probably got about 14 poems stuck in my head that
Oh.
I haven't got to paper yet.
Oh!
So different subjects that I really want to put down to paper.
Mhm,
And
right.
I know that would really grab an audience.
Oh,
very
sure.
well. Oh, yeah.
You bet.
Yeah. And then the National Day of the Cowboy. Okay. Good.
3
Okay.
minutes.
We've got 3 minutes left?
Okay, the
No.
National Day of the Cowboy is coming up, excuse me, on July 27th, which it happens to fall on my father's birthday, who was a cowboy. I'm pretty excited about that. And that started in 2005, so this would be the 14th year. That's the fourth Saturday in July. National Cowboy Poetry Week happens to
Ooh.
be National Poetry Month, which is in April. And this year it was Saturday, April 21st to Sunday, April 27th.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Well, Tony, could I ask you to read a poem for our viewers?
Sure, I would be happy to do so. And what I'll do is, in regards to when people reference to reading a poem, typically most of the reciters or the poets are the ones that write, they always cite from memory. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they say, did you go to the cowboy poetry readings? And that's maybe what they did years ago, but typically they're all done from memory.
Oh,
But,
nice.
yeah, I'd be happy to recite whatever you'd like to hear.
Well, I have been hearing all about this wonderful poem for your father. Could
Oh.
you recite that one for us?
I would be delighted to do so.
Yay!
It's a feel-good poem.
Okay.
And my father was a cowboy. He was a packer, an outfitter, guide, master of hitches and ropes. He was an outdoorsman to the highest degree. And one night, boom, I wrote this poem, and I'm not kidding, it was 10 minutes.
Oh.
Like, holy smokes, it just came out faster than I could write it down. I'm writing it, and I didn't even change anything. So I asked the missus, she's a smart one, my wife Marcy. And I says, hey, what do you think about this? Let me read it to her. I read it, because I just wrote it down. And she goes, I like that poem. Get Mom and Pa on the phone, 2 separate phones, and see what their individual reactions are to it. And I'm thinking, well, gee, they're not going to say, gee, Tony, that was terrible. They got it on there, and they said, Tony, that poem's beautiful. I said, well, Dad's his son. I really like that poem. I said, well, that's about you, Dad. And he goes, wow. He goes, yeah, I really like that poem. Well, a week to the day later, I was reciting cowboy poetry. I was emceeing it as well, right here in Carson City at Mills Park at the 32nd Annual Carson City Rendezvous.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, Civil War reenactors were there, gunfighters, all the fun stuff. What makes Nevada, Nevada?
Yeah.
Welcome to Nevada.
That's right.
All right. And I get this call from my mother on the phone. She's just frantic, and I can hardly understand what she's saying. I said, Mom, calm down. It's all right. What's going on? She says, Tony, your father just had a terrible accident on Moses. Moses was a huge Percheron mule that my dad had. He had him for like 14, 15 years. A very docile animal, and nothing bothered it. And she says, they're flying from the rodeo grounds by the ranch, and they're flying to the trauma center. And it doesn't look good. They said to contact family members. And I said, okay, I'll be right there. So I had to travel a fair ways. And a long story short, my dad was closing the gate from a ranch that he just left, and he was headed to my folks' ranch. And he was throwing the leg over the back of the animal. A mountain lion let out a big yell. And the mule went ballistic and took him on his last rodeo ride. And he kept, we saw the tracks, it went quite a ways. And he ended up getting thrown off hard and landed on his back, hit his head pretty hard, and he ended up with a non-sustainable brainstem injury. So the next day, he passed away. He was just a couple months short of being 74. But I mean, he was as tough as they come. So my mother and my wife, Marcy, says, you need to recite this at your father's funeral. I love this poem. So I said, absolutely. And he says, we're going to need a place big enough to contain it. There's about 800 people there. We had it at the Veterans Building in Grass Valley. It was full military, full fire department honors. And I dressed up. And the funeral director says, Tony, I really like this poem. Says, can I have your permission to print it on your father's little card, their itinerary? And I said, absolutely. So I recited this poem. And for the folks that are watching, it's not a sad poem, it's actually a happy poem. And I always incorporate humor. And something told me when I started to write this just to stop and then continue finishing the poem, so I did. When I get to the point in this poem, when I'm reciting it, and I get to the point when your roundup days are done, take the fact that I wrote this exactly 1 week before the passing of my father's incident. So here it is, A Cowboy's Wishes. May your saddle for air be comfy, and your breeches always stay clean. And the Mustang hoss that you ride on, ride like a dream. And the Mavericks you look for, be easy to find. And your 44 6-gun, hit its mark every time. And the parts that you rope with, you can depend without fail. Fond memories of past friends long gone from that rough, dusty trail. Under the stars in your bedroll, fresh air and a new morning's dew. Enamored thoughts of your sweetheart's smiling face of those piercing eyes blue. And the American flag that you fought for, wave evermore. Soldiers remembered the ultimate sacrifice of war. And your fences always be mended and your wants simple and free. Knowing God keeps his eyes peeled, giving guidance wherever you be. When your roundup days are done and you're put in the ground 6 feet below, in a simple pine box, branded, as you requested from ranching friends that you know. And when you're at rest on that final day of your last setting sun, inscribed above you will read, a cowboy's work is never done. Ride 'em, cowboy dad, you're the best.
Oh my gosh, tears. Lots of tears. Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. Okay.
Psychic intuition?
Yeah, I think so.
Psychic Sandie creations.
Well, that's what
Psychic
happened. That's how it
creations,
happened.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
for
welcome. I'm
reciting
glad
it.
to share it.
What a wonderful and loving tribute to your dad. Huh, Dad? Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
birthday is on National Day of the Cowboy this year, so I'm
Isn't
excited.
that awesome?
He was, my grandfather's professional cowboy, and all kinds of things that excite me about doing what I do. Keep that tradition, carry it on.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, we're kind of running out of time here, Tony. So
Doggone it, anyway.
I know. We'll have to have him back, okay? Let's have a second show with him, all right? Could you please give our viewers your contact information?
Sure. Most of the time people ask me where I'm from, and I just say, look at me. Come on, I live under the bridge.
No.
But most of the time I'm at home. I have a website, and it's not current. I've been a little lax on that, so please accept my sincere apologies. It's simply TonyArgento.com, TonyArgento.com. And my telephone number is 775-826-5760. Love to hear from you. Makes me tick. That's what this is all about. If I can share that experience, then all the better.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for being on this program today. You are wonderful and
I'm
awesome.
honored to be here.
Oh.
You make me a happy camper.
Oh, well, that's great. And we're all crying here. All the crew is crying here. Still over your father's poem still. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, if you would like to be a guest on Psychic Creation, please know that we have lots of wonderful interviews from people from all walks of life and skills, like Tony here. You can contact me at my website, which is www.sandypsychicstones.com, or at my email address, which is admin@sandypsychicstones.com. Thank you so much for watching Psychic Creations, and we'll see you next show.